We're a small Serbian Drupal web shop. Yeah, we make websites. Every single presentation I had a cat on it. So this is Jose, my cat, super cat. And today I will be talking about a huge multinational company, which is, well, a little bit specific because it exists for like 50 years, 60 years, something like that. They have really strong workflows, and they had this set of rules which made them live for the last 50 years. So they decided to change their entire editorial experience, and they wanted to change, but they did not want to change the processes. So it's like replace the software but keep the processes the same. So first we needed to decide what are the processes, what is the basic core process we need to understand, and we need to work with them. And well, let's talk about some imaginative company which has, of course, authors. And they are creative people, they are not too technical, they do not know how to use, Drupal and stuff. They hate our UIs, so yeah. But they are creative and they write about stuff. But they are out of control and their stuff is sometimes bad, sometimes is wrong. So they need somebody to help them, to correct them. And these people are editors. And they have basically two purposes in printed media. They have purpose to find errors and replace them. And they have purpose to, categorize content, order it properly, and decide what is important, what is not. And they have this thing they need to show. Well, they need to influence the content in the way that will be the most fit for sponsors, for clients, for readers, etc., etc. And just imagine the company which has multiple different publications. So these editors need to decide which content to place in which publication. So for example, Isola importers will be in Travel Magazine and Copper would be in Cruising World. But they have a web site also, and they want everything in website. So this is kind of scary, and it's hardcore content workflow. But let's make it even more scary. So this is all Slovenia, and just imagine the multinational corporation has their offices or their publications in Italy. So they would have some Foo magazine in Slovenia, but they would also have Foo magazine in Italy. They would have Bar magazine in Slovenia and Bar magazine in Italy, and finally they would have a website which kind of incorporates everything, and it's scary. Italy would have its own editors, Slovenia would have its own editors. They would work in different languages on different publications. But let's make it even more complicated. Foo magazine would look the same in Slovenia and in Italy. So they would have to have some InDesign templates specialized for Foo magazine and for Bar magazine. And finally, they would need the web magazine, which is always the scariest part of everything. And that actually happened, and that exists since 1980s. In our particular company or company we work for, they use this thing called FileMaker. Now, FileMaker it's relational database software, which actually incorporates forms, incorporates design, incorporates different set of plugins and exporters which allow you to change format of your data. So you keep all the data discrete in database, but then again, that data can be easily modified, joined together in different ways. As I said, it's really old software. It started, well, its sales as a program nutshell in MS-DOS in early 90s, 80s. Then it was bought by Apple. And what's important is FileMaker Pro 4.0, which has this method of exporting stuff using plugins and transforming it. Was released in 1997, and the company we work for still uses it. So 1997. Even though FileMaker itself continued development and Apple works on it intensively, so it is not that bad. So our workflow for the company is you have this database called FileMaker, and you have authors, which like create content, editors, which edit it, and make sure it's all good. And FileMaker has this purpose to export this data, this content, into any format possible. So they have this XML exporter, which can be set up to export the data however they want. They would have InDesign exporters, which would export data, well, to actual magazines. And they have this HTML exporter, which actually combines different static stuff as static content menus and DFP ads into this unique website experience. So as a result, you would have millions of different files all around the server, and everything is just static, and everything is being generated from Liquid Edit and just stored on the website. So performance-wise, this is great because you don't have a PHP. Everything is just HTML, which is being served to users. But you know, it's a problem. It's a problem to manage all of this. So what if FileMaker, which is like has this centralized place in their hierarchy, was replaced by Drupal? Drupal has fantastic ability to manage users. You can create set of roles, authors, editors, marketing department, whatever. You can assign users these roles to users. Drupal was built to manage content, so it is able to export stuff using XML. It is HTML, so we don't need this. And it should work. Open source, so people are, our clients are able to change everything. Now, the problem with Liquid Edit is you have this one server, and then you distribute applications, which are basically forms with some local storage, to all the editors and authors, etc., etc. So they would need to synchronize with centralized server. And in 80s, that worked using modems, and everybody had this queue, and they had to connect to a certain line. It's like BBSs, if you remember that. So now it's a little bit different, but still they have only one server, and that server can be, when they are working on a publication, that can be pretty crowded, and so it's a problem having it all centralized. Drupal does it by default. Drupal was built to transform content in different ways, and well, it's pretty flexible. So this is the site we worked on. Company is called Morris Digital Media or Digital Publications, and the site is Where Traveler. And their workflow was their FileMaker was so ridiculously modified that they didn't have the name FileMaker. They called it Liquid Edit. So totally different. I don't believe Apple even supported their heavily modified version of it. And first thing that was done, and that was something before we started working on the project, was for some reason somebody created an export to MySQL database. And from that MySQL database, using some really ridiculous custom code, content was imported to Drupal. And Drupal was serving as a front end for the website or for the entire content experience. So what we tried to do is create this bridge between Liquid Edit and Drupal, using XML, of course, that's logical. And we managed to somehow get rid of this intermediary MySQL. And that's okay, but XML itself export was a process. So we needed we needed 6 months just to get XML feeds we needed. So this is an example of one XML feed, the first XML feed received. Most of the content was in attributes, so that was really funny. Locations required discrete data. Now that's something we didn't have here. So for example, in web experience, the address would be entire row, like here in address attribute. But in printed medium, they do not need Chicago, Illinois, because the entire magazine was built for Chicago only. So it was only 5400 North Clark Street. We couldn't have that, so we needed discrete data. And this particular XML feed was bad for listings with multiple locations. So imagine a situation where you have McDonald's, for example, and McDonald's have several locations in one particular city, and that's something we couldn't get with this structure of feeds. So it was a process to get the new feed. This was a little bit better. As you see now we have everything categorized in tags. We don't use attributes anymore, but locations were still not discrete. Our final version of XML was incredibly discrete. It was so discrete that phone numbers were split in 5 different fields. And for example, in the United States, you would have only phone area code, prefix and suffix, but in France, there are 5 numbers, all 2 digits. So, yes. This is the newest feed, which helped us build this structure. So, this structure is a typical example of one listing, one article in their magazines, which actually has this parent content type listing, which has all the details about this particular burger shop, and through entity reference, it is related to multiple location content types, which were, location specific. That allowed us to do something beautiful, and that's to shut down the entire Liquid Edit, which was great. But we had a problem, and the problem is there's not module for InDesign exporting. And that's an interesting story. When we started working on this project, it was barely possible that there is not an InDesign module or InDesign exporter module. But there wasn't. There were several sessions talking about this, but nothing was open sourced. So we had to build InDesign exporter, which in our implementations looks like this. Market is, country or part of the United States where our client publishes their magazines. Each market has several categories. That's part of their workflow. And finally, for each market and category, you could choose multiple issues depending on location. So, for example, they have these 2 issues, Guestbook and Where Traveler magazine. Guestbook is only being published in biggest tourist places, and magazine is being published everywhere. So, our InDesign exporter looks like this. We have selection rules. Selection rules are basically views. So, for example, display all listings which belong to Boston and are categorized as dining and are scheduled to be published in Guestbook. So this query returns us list of node IDs, which are then being passed to templates. And we have support for multiple templates, one per each node ID or with different contexts, so that's all context-based. Templates are actually InDesign tag text, which is some sort of pseudo XML. It looks disturbingly bad. And templates support tokens. So depending on all the different elements of a template, we are generating preamble, which is like definition for all the styles, character styles, paragraph styles in design. So finally, we are exporting this as a TXT file, which is then being imported to Liquid Edit, to InDesign. So InDesign importer works like this. You just click on place, you paste the text, and everything is nicely set. And we have character styles, we have paragraph styles. Everything works. So is our module ready for Drupal org? Not. So it is still pretty, it is working, but it is still pretty bad because it doesn't support views. We are generating our own list of nodes. We have too much client-specific code, and that needs to be cleaned up. We need to create some sort of unified solution. This is a big problem. We don't know, well, actually, this is wrong. We know how to export images from Drupal, but we do not know how to import them in InDesign. So it appears that we need to create a module or plugin for InDesign itself, which would do something like that. And we don't know how to do it, so we'll see. We don't have administrative interface yet, so it is still, we are building all the queries using this ultra long object in, well, actually array of arrays in Drupal. And, well, performance is not that great. Currently, we are being able to handle 100 listings per minute, so it might be better. And finally, yes, Drupal 8 is near, so it needs to be ported to Drupal 8. So our service looks like this currently. We have all these authors and editors working on Drupal. We are exporting all the stuff into appropriate magazines. We are using XML to feed mobile applications. And we are using RSS for affiliations. And everything is working, so that's good. And of course, Drupal allows us to implement something new, something fancy, something our clients didn't have before Drupal, and that's user engagement, which basically allows users to enter the site, to choose articles they like, because all articles are talking about destinations. They are able to create their own trips, to sort all the destinations they want to visit, something like itineraries, something like that. We have social network integration, which is they are allowed to share their trips with Facebook friends and stuff. Drupal allows us marketing automation, which is awesome. This particular Drupal integrates with Pardot marketing automation. And of course, we are serving double-click ads. Of course, the implementation did not go smooth because this is the map of world and everybody who was working on this project. So we had colleagues from 3 locations in the United States, 2 locations in Europe, and in India. Everybody was working on their own, and project management was not the best. And we were stumbling upon incredible stuff. So this is one example of fantastic database queries we had in our code. This code was screaming for SQL injections, and we were also this is ridiculous piece of code which was actually sending raw user addresses via unsecured HTTP protocol to a third-party service, and we just found this. So it was well, and talking to project managers about this and just trying to explain how wrong this is was incredible. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with projects. That's it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.